My entitled in-laws are demanding that we give up our home so that my sister-in-law and her family can move in after she got a divorce. And now, after we told them that we're not going to do that, they've started calling us greedy and selfish, claiming that we don't care about the kids and that we're going to be the reason that they end up homeless. And right now, I feel like I'm at a crossroads and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened 2 nights ago and I'm still feeling some type of way about it. For some background, my husband has a younger sister. This sister-in-law is currently going through a divorce with 4 children, and my husband and I also have 4 children. My husband and I live in a very quiet country back road in our own little town, us and his family being the only residents on the road. So, both his sisters and their families and his parents live within walking distance of our house. My husband and I have been married for 7 years and have 4 young children. My husband bought the land that we live on from his parents when he was 18 years old, and when we got married, we built a house on it. We designed our house with a big family in mind and designed it to be our forever home. And trust me when I say this, there has never been a thought to move or look elsewhere. Now, my sister-in-law is going through a divorce and she is struggling to say the least. She was in a very toxic relationship with her ex, with her contributing just as much as he was. And he was the one who filed for divorce and moved out, leaving the 4 kids with her. Well, my mother-in-law called my husband 2 nights ago and asked if we could come over for a chat. We get there and my in-laws and sister-in-law are sitting on the couch as if they were staging some kind of intervention. I mean, it was just really strange. My mother-in-law didn't beat around the bush at all. She explained how my sister-in-law's ex was getting the house in the divorce and they would be homeless within a month if we didn't give her our home. Now, when she said this, it honestly took me a second to comprehend what was even said because this was so far out of left field. But my husband didn't even need that second. He looked them dead in the eyes and said no. My in-laws started telling us things like, "You guys don't need all that house. You guys can move into one of the new neighborhoods in town. I mean, you guys can just build a new house, right?" And I seriously could not believe what I was hearing. I offered to open up our playroom and guest room to them until they could find somewhere to live. I mean, we have an air mattress and the guest room has a full bath, but that was just not good enough to them apparently. So that's when we got up and we just straight up left. As we were leaving, they began yelling after us, saying that we don't care about the children, how family helps family, and that we're being greedy and selfish. And I've got to say, I'm honestly so proud of how we reacted because my first instinct was to go off and say some hurtful things. But instead, we just went home to our house. We love my sister-in-law's kids and obviously we do not want them to be homeless, but they don't need my house at the expense of my own children and family. I don't see why my sister-in-law's family deserves my home. I mean, what about my kids? Now the in-laws are calling and texting, saying that we don't care about the kids, that we are selfish and greedy, and that we're making her homeless. And I'm wondering if maybe we were too quick to say no. So honestly, are we the jerks in this situation? What should we do? Wow, your in-laws and your sister-in-law are being incredibly entitled. They're seriously gonna look at you and be like, "Can you just move out, please? We need your home more than you do." And it's like, lady, what are you talking about? I have a family of my own. I've got kids of my own. Like seriously, why on earth should you give up your home just because your mother-in-law is demanding it? Why can't they give up their home? Like, why is this suddenly on your shoulders? And also, the fact that they're trying to frame this as if you're the reason they're gonna be homeless is so disgusting. You didn't cause them to lose the house. Their ex did that. If they want to be mad at anybody, be mad at them. Like, you didn't do a single thing in this scenario. So honestly, the way they're acting is insane, and you do not deserve this in the slightest, because I am sure there are some kind of options available in the world or the community that you're in that would allow them to find a place to live and move on with their lives. Because for them to just demand your house outright, in my opinion, is completely crazy. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that if she doesn't like the living conditions of my place, then she should just go ahead and leave? Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, she's technically my stepsister, but we're basically sisters and I treat her like one. I'm a 29-year-old female and I live on a tiny farm off the grid in the middle of nowhere. The only livable building on the farm is a small trailer and there's no power. I mean, I have to use a generator just to do anything. On top of that, there is no plumbing. We have 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and their father isn't in the picture and won't be until the end of 2032. I'm fine with the lack of basic necessities as I live off the land and I don't need much in general. My kids are homeschooled and I plan to do so until middle school at least. Recently, my 33-year-old 7-year-old stepsister got divorced and evicted from her ex's place. She has 3 kids, 2 5-year-olds and a 3-year-old. She had nowhere to go, so I invited her to live with me. Not even a week had passed, and she started complaining about having to use the outhouse, as well as a lack of water, and the fact that the drinkable water had to be carried from another well in buckets. She also complained that we live far away from any civilization, with the nearest hospital being about 20 miles away, and if anything happens, there is a chance that we won't be able to get there on time. Her biggest complaint, though, was that I asked her to help around the farm with small chores, and that I asked one of her 5-year-olds to bring some water from the well, and I gave them a small bucket. I see nothing wrong with children doing age-appropriate tasks around the farm, and I was raised the same way until I was 12. So I told her that if she's dissatisfied with the way I live, then she is free to leave. I'm not locking her up to be my slave around the farm. I provided her with free housing and food. Well, she said that I'm trying to use her children for child labor and that I'm endangering her life. We had a nasty verbal fight that ended up with us exchanging some really unsavory words, and now she is still sulking. And right now, I'm wondering if I'm the jerk, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're in the wrong here, and I really think your stepsister was kind of out of line. Like seriously, it's just a bucket, and it's not like you're asking for some weird child labor on the farm. You're literally just asking people to pull their weight. Like that is completely understandable. So for your stepsister to freak out like that is so weird. Like you're giving her free housing. Why would she not expect to have to do something just to kind of like make up for getting free housing altogether? And it's not like you're asking that much. Like this really is minor in the long run. And you know what? You're absolutely right as well. If she doesn't like it here, then she can leave. Because truly, no one is forcing her to live there. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that I'm moving out and that I won't be babysitting this summer or any time after that? Because right now, he and his wife are very upset. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been forced to babysit for my dad and his wife for 5 years for the last 4 summers. The kids are my dad's stepkids who are currently 7, 6, and 5 years old. And no, the kids are 100% not my dad's kids. And trust me, I'm positive they're not his kids either. It doesn't really matter anyways, but I wanted to put that out here because I know the ages would make it appear like at least one could be, but trust me, it's not. My dad was never a very good dad to me. When I was a kid, he was really absent from our house, and he left raising me to my mom and would show up when others were around to make it look good. But he never got involved or cared about me or my life. And actually, the one time I was always sure to see him was on his birthday when he got mom to cook his favorite meal and open up gifts. He never failed to show up when it was about him. My mom got sick when I was 8 years old, and my dad bailed and he filed for divorce. He left me to deal with my dying mom, and unfortunately for her, the divorce didn't go through before she passed, so he was still her husband. He wasn't emotionally present for me then or physically. He would just dump me on a babysitter until I was 11 years old, and then I was seen as old enough to be left alone. When I was 12 years old, he moved in his wife who was still pregnant at the time, and they weren't even married then. They got married when her youngest was about 5 months old, and they told me I was going to level up and be a good big sister to her kids so that they could live their own lives and the kids would have someone to look up to. Then came the forced babysitting during the summer, all summer long. I always tried to find ways out of it, but felt like I had no options, at least no realistic ones. Now, my dad's wife is kind of better than my dad. She isn't directly involved or caring to her kids, but she will often bark at me for not being more sweet to her kids and saying how sad her kids look when I don't interact with them. It's more than what my dad would do, but she's not exactly getting involved with her own kids either. I've been planning for over a year to get out. I turn 18 in May and I graduate a couple of weeks later. Most likely I will go stay with friends on my 18th birthday, and I will totally be gone and never return. I won't babysit, and I know they expected that to happen, and I don't know that they would actually pay for someone else, or if they'd maybe leave the kids without someone watching them. So I decided to tell my dad that I won't be babysitting this summer or at all. In my head, at least if he cares just a little bit, he might just get someone else in. Well, my dad told me that I've been the most consistent person in the kids' lives, and that I'm a jerk for dismissing them like that. He told me that I should be staying and doing what he and his wife want because they put a roof over my head for so long now. He told me I'm going to cost him money by doing this. His wife then started yelling at me for leaving her kids behind and how sad they will be. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your dad and his wife are literally just using you for their own benefit. They only see you as a free babysitter over the summer because not only would they never pay you, but you'll never get anything out of watching those kids in the slightest. Like, do they not see how neglectful they are as parents? I mean, this guy's trying to claim that you're the most consistent person in these kids' lives. But like, shouldn't that be him and his wife? Why should you, as the stepsister, step in and be like the parent in this situation? That doesn't make any sense, and it just sounds like they're being very lazy. And you can almost see the reasons laid out in that last paragraph. He wants you to stick around because you're free labor, and then when you say no, they just guilt trip you just like the wife is doing. And literally, the way that he treated you growing up is just so neglectful. He didn't care about you or your mom in the slightest. So I don't blame you for wanting to move out. These people sound awful, and you definitely don't deserve this. So in my opinion, you are absolutely not the jerk. Two obnoxious kids come into my store demanding every single item they see within reach, and I've honestly never seen kids be more spoiled in my life. Here's what happened. So I worked at Claire's for 8 months. It was a pretty miserable job for many reasons, one of them being that I had to deal with children who made my life a living nightmare, all because mommy and daddy wouldn't buy them the eyeshadow palette shaped like a star. What often made it worse was kids and parents would often get into full-blown screaming matches, and there really is nothing less fun or more awkward than witnessing that. And the situation I'm going to tell you about is the worst case that I've ever been involved in, and honestly, thinking about this one makes me cringe. One day I'm at work and this family comes in. There's a mom, a grandma, a girl who couldn't be more than 6 years old, and a boy who couldn't be more than 5. The mom came in to ask about a problem they had after getting the girl's ears pierced. They had been a little swollen after they had taken the piercings out, and told them that it'd be a good idea to maybe clean them a little more and have her wear the precious metal earrings, which are earrings made of less crappy metal. They go to look at the earrings, and I let them know about our buy 3 get 3 deal on jewelry and hair accessories. Now, our precious metal earrings are expensive, $12 for a pair and $36 for a pack of 3. I usually feel bad telling people that they need to get the expensive ones, so I also usually pointed out the clearance ones. I walked over to the clearance ones and grabbed the 3 precious metal earrings that I saw there. I brought them over to the girl and I showed them to her, and she literally recoiled because she thought they were ugly. I have never seen a kid that age look that judgmental in my life. The family lingers into the regular earrings, and the girl starts begging for a pair of flamingo earrings. She said she needed them because she was dressing like a flamingo for Halloween. Now, get ready for these kids to say the word need a lot, because trust me, that's exactly what they do. Now, the mom wants to get enough things to get the discount, and she actually ended up getting enough items to get it more than once. The girl then gravitated to a tiara and said that she needed it because, and I quote here, "I need it because I can't be a princess without a tiara." This family ended up being in there for maybe about 20 minutes, and it honestly felt a lot longer. The entire time, both kids were hopping around the store, pointing at practically everything and saying, "I need this." Some of it was kind of weird too. We had these Harry Potter minifigure blind bags that quite a few kids wanted, even kids who were a few years too young to read Harry Potter, just because one of the options was a cute orange tabby cat that they wanted. That was clearly one of the things that these kids needed. They spent the better part of the most uncomfortable 20 minutes of my life yelling at their mom and grandma, and wailing every single time they said no to anything. And the mom was getting more pissed off by the minute, but she was still really determined to stay in the store long enough to get things to get that discount. Eventually, the mom is yelling at the kids are still yelling, and the grandma is the only one not yelling, but she still looks stressed out of her mind. And I seriously can't emphasize this enough. It is really awkward to watch parents angrily scolding or arguing with their kids, especially when you're at work and you have to keep on the happy, polite retail worker face and basically act like you're not seeing anything. The mom even started telling the grandma to pick out something for herself because she did not want to buy those kids a single thing. Now, I have never been so happy to see a customer checkout in my life. As the mom is checking out, she sees that the total is really high and asks to remove a few things, and I'm so glad the kids didn't witness that. Claire's brings out the worst in children, and the buy 3 get 3 brings out the worst in the parents. Yeah, I can see that being very frustrating to deal with. There's no way on earth I could work that kind of job because I would not have that kind of patience to act like nothing's happening. I would absolutely want to be that guy to be like, wait a second, what's happening here? Why are we all screaming and yelling over earrings? Or even making some kind of remark about the kids asking for everything. Like, I don't know about you, but I would not be able to keep my mouth shut in that situation. So truly good for the original poster for keeping their cool, because that sounded incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for telling my stepdad that he's inserting himself too much into my engagement? Because right now he feels very upset that I told him off, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female and I got engaged 4 months ago to my fiance Chris. Chris is not his real name. name. Chris was confronted by my stepdad after we announced our engagement. My stepdad was upset that Chris didn't ask for my hand in marriage or my stepdad's blessing. He told Chris I'm his only little girl, and it would be the most respectful thing to both of us to ask his permission and his blessing. Well, Chris told him that it's an outdated concept, and if we were to do the whole blessing thing, we would visit my dad's grave to ask. My stepdad told him that he's the dad he would ask. He's the father of the bride, and he's the future father-in-law. Well, Chris didn't tell me about this right away because he said he had hoped it would blow over, and he didn't want me to feel bad about it or for me to deal with stress regarding my stepdad. Last month, my stepdad asked me why I hadn't approached him for money for the wedding and why he wasn't asked directly to give me away and perform the father-daughter dance. He told me he was starting to feel very overlooked as the father of the bride, and he was not okay with that. He told me this is very big for him, as I'm the only girl that he has that's getting married and all that other stuff. Now, for a bit of background, my dad passed away when I was 6 years old, and my mom married my stepdad when I was about 10 years old. I knew him for just shy of a year when he and my mom got married. I was my mom and dad's only child, and my stepdad brought 3 sons into the marriage, and he and my mom had 3 more sons together. I respect that my stepdad wanted to be my dad and committed to being a dad to me, but he is very old-fashioned and he is not my dad. I don't really love him. I find him overbearing and misogynistic at the best of times, and he did not like that I wanted to go to college for game design and development. He thought that was very masculine, and also never liked me playing video games in the first place. He was very into the idea of a daughter though, and often tried to take me to father-daughter balls that he would look up. I actually gave him the money back that he saved me for college and spent my dad's money because I wasn't going to let him dictate my future, and my dad did support me. He wrote a letter saying he hoped I followed my dreams of making games, and I only read that when I gained access to the money that he left me. I told my stepdad that he wasn't walking me down the aisle or performing any kind of father-daughter dance with me. I told him I wasn't looking for his money, and he told me that's what the father of the bride does and that he wants to do it. He told me it's tradition, but I said it was not traditional and that I was not having a traditional wedding. A few days after, we rehashed the same stuff. I found out about his confronting Chris then, and I went to my stepdad and told him he had no right. But he argued as my dad, he has every right. I told him though that he's not my dad and he's inserting himself way too much and cannot make demands for my wedding or engagement. He told me to say that to him after almost 20 years is disgusting, and he has been my dad far longer than my donor ever was. And when I say donor, he's referring to my father who's passed away. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Your dad is being very obnoxious and very rude. He's inserting himself into the middle of you getting married, and he's trying to make these weird demands that you just don't want to deal with. Like, I understand him wanting to be involved and be this father figure in your life, but it seems like he's almost like trying to force it. Like he's almost trying to make you be the daughter to his father. But like, that's not how this works. He can't just make you his daughter, and he also can't force you to call him your dad. And speaking of which, for him to call your dad who passed away as your donor, that is really disgusting and really cruel. It's not fair for him to act like that, and you really do not deserve that. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. My coworkers intentionally got me in trouble with management, and now my manager is threatening to take me off the schedule, even though I was just trying to be a team player. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I started at this restaurant a few months ago, and it initially took some getting used to, as I haven't served in many years. My coworkers were really helpful in the beginning, but with time started to get annoyed with me because I would ask questions. I was supposed to get 3 manager training shifts when I started, which never happened, so my training ended up falling on whoever I was working with that night. I have definitely gotten a handle on the job since then, but some of that tension towards me has still lingered. I try really hard to be friends with my coworkers, and it's important to me to feel like we are a team, despite the competitiveness of serving. But I feel like people are kind of two-faced, and it's really hard to get a read on people. Sometimes I want to keep my head down and do my own thing, but my manager pointed this out to me and asked me to interact with everyone more. Anyways, with that said, lately it's been so slow a lot of the times, meaning that one server will go home early so that the other can make whatever money they can with the few tables that come in. In the winter, that was acceptable, but recently my manager has been cracking down on this. The thing is, my coworkers encourage me to leave early almost every single shift, especially when it's slow, so I end up feeling awkward if I don't. My manager found out that I left early the other day and basically sent me a text ready to take me off the schedule and saying I don't act like I want to be there. Now, I really do want to keep this job, job, and I feel bad for letting him down. We are going to sit down next week and talk it over, but I need to know if anyone has any advice or a similar experience working in restaurants. It feels very dog eat dog, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, why on earth would you leave early? All because your coworkers are telling you to do that. Like, it really seems like your coworkers are just trying to get you in trouble with management, and you should have not listened to anything they said to you. Like, you do realize they did that on purpose, right? They clearly don't like you because you were new and asking them questions, and now it's pretty clear to me at least that they're trying to get rid of you in some kind of way. And here's the other thing that I really think you need to figure out. I think you need to realize that just because someone's a coworker doesn't mean that they're your friend, especially based on what you've described, because these people do not sound like good people at all. So in my opinion, I think it's time to listen to your management and follow exactly what they want you to do, because leaving early just because your coworkers say that you can do it, in my opinion, is a surefire way just to get fired. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.